What's up guys, Garry Eberhardt, Realtor at the address in Hollywood Beach. We are about to go interview Mr. Mark Sandoval, who is the Ventura County Harbor Director. Really nice guy. He's been the Harbor Director now for I believe 2 years. And we're going to discuss the 3 major projects going on here in the Channel Islands Harbor, as well as kind of like the history of the harbor. You know, he's got knows a lot of information, so I'm excited to talk to him about it. Speaking of crazy locations, we're actually standing in front of the Whale's Tail, which I'm going to show my age on this, but back in '96, this was my first job ever. I was a busboy here, worked my way up to waiter, server. So I have a lot of passion in this building. I have a lot of passion in this beach community. I'm a local here. So if you're interested, you want to know more about this community, maybe moving here one day, you want to buy or sell a home, I'd love to be your guy. So let's go ahead and talk to Mark.
Well, first, Garry, thank you for asking me here. The one thing I never get tired of talking about is the Channel Islands Harbor. What got me here, I've been on the waterfront for virtually all my career. I spent nearly 20 years running the Long Beach waterfront, the recreational end of the waterfront, not the port. That's a whole different animal. And we did a lot there. It was very similar. We had the same mixed use marinas in the water. We had residences around. We had a lot of retail. And when I left that position, kind of the city and I tired of each other, I took a job in the private sector running 2 lakes up north out of San Luis Obispo, or in San Luis Obispo County, Lakes Nacimiento and San Antonio. And so I went from the public sector on the ocean front to the private sector inland, and figured I'd stay there. Figured that's when I'd retire. And then this position became available. My predecessor, Lynn Krieger, retired, and through a marine association, they asked me if I would interview. So here I am. Admittedly, I didn't know much about the Channel Islands Harbor. I'd only been here once. And, but then once I came here and started looking around, 2 things I noticed. First is what a great harbor. Much smaller than Long Beach, but a great harbor with all the amenities. The second thing I noticed was there are things that are a mess here. Right. When you drive up Victoria or down Victoria, whatever way you look at it, and the first thing you see is Fisherman's Wharf. It's like, wow, that's as good as we can do here. But as I started talking to people, and over the last 2 years, I just had my 2nd year anniversary. As in the 2 years, I met hundreds and hundreds of people, and the one thing I constantly hear is, "Man, Channel Islands Harbor used to be a great place." Yourself, yeah, the Whale's Tail. I used to bust dishes, and I got married at the lobster trap. This is where I used to. I mean, you hear all of that. And what it does to me, it says, God, Mark, we got to get back there. We got to get this harbor back to that place, and that's my mandate. That's what I've got to do. A little bit of history about the harbor. It was developed in the mid-'60s, and it's a county. It's owned by the county of Ventura. I'm a county employee. And the county immediately made a decision that in order to develop the harbor, the marinas, the restaurants, the yacht clubs, everything around the harbor, the apartments, the residences, they were going to attract private funds. And the way to do that was using long-term ground leases, where they would say, okay, here's a parcel. It could be land and water, just land, just water. And you can develop it. We'll give you, X years, however many years, it was merited by the level of investment, and the developer would develop and run that property for however long the lease was, and then at the end of the lease they'd walk away, or we'd re-up the lease, they'd reinvest, and that's kind of the way. And in fact, the first harbor director called it pay-as-you-go, and that's pretty much what we do now. The unfortunate part about the harbor is that a lot of what you see around the harbor right now is original. So it's all turning 50 years old, and then you look at it, it's like, got to rebuild. We just got to rebuild. The first developer, his name was Martin Bud Smith, and he developed about half of what you see around here. The apartments on Peninsula, the Casa Serena Hotel, and so he did a lot of it, and great. I mean, he gave birth to this harbor, and he ran this harbor kind of as one, as one big development, as one portfolio. And because of that, he could actually lose money in one sector of his portfolio, but he's making money in another. So it didn't matter if the Whale's Tail restaurant, or if the lobster trap wasn't making money, if the hotel was, or if the apartments were, it didn't matter to him. So he was able to cut rent deals, and that was great. I mean, a great way to operate. But once he went away and a private investment firm took over and started selling off the parcels, all these parcels had to stand alone, and that's when the trouble started happening. We started having developers that bought these leases that walked away. They said, I can't make money, they just walked away. And we've got example after example of that happening, and most of the issues I'm dealing with today, that's exactly what happened. Where the developer who bought the lease, just said, I can't make money, and I don't have the money to reinvest. And so that's what we're struggling with.